that they'd have to talk to dining about whether or not dining would open.
Right, so,
During that time.
right. My understanding is they plan to have this conversation, so we'll get updates about it, basically. Yeah. Now that graduation is over. The other kind of more concerning thing, and I really wanted to ask ML all the questions about this, is the part about the hotel. And so, the great part is that, the room rate for the block is $109, which is pretty awesome. But they want to charge, assuming the block fills, or they didn't specify a number, the block happens, $4,000 plus 17% sales tax and fee for the outround rooms. So I spoke with Gabe a little bit about this, and he said worst case scenario, I don't know, we didn't go under last year, so for the purposes of this year, we could potentially eat the cost. But best case scenario, we can try to renegotiate. What are your thoughts?
I was trying to find
Or you try to look for another hotel, these.
yeah.
Can they not host on campus for outrounds? Like, does the date just not work out, or is it? Because some places have done that too, where the hotel rooms are too expensive. They just went ahead and hosted outruns on campus.
That's a good question. I can ask that.
Second day, the final round is a Sunday. So I think we should be able to do it on campus, which is not ideal, it's not as festive and all of that. However, I'm much more comfortable with that than $5,000 to have it in the hotel. Because although we didn't go under in last year, we're still steadily going under in operating costs. And just to put that in perspective, right now we are sitting on $30,500.
Okay.
So that's down from 42 about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just dwindling in that direction. We're not at a critical point, but we've got to turn that tide at some point.
Right.
In their bid, they said that elimination rounds could be hosted on the campus.
Oh, good.
It said, coinciding with spring break means we can utilize 100% of campus services for the tournament. It also means the executive committee can have the choice if elimination rounds are hosted on campus or at the tournament hotel.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, then that potentially resolves it. Do you think that there's any value / would you be interested in trying to facilitate or assist in renegotiating with the hotel?
I'm looking for what hotel it is.
It's La Quinta. They have a letter towards the end that.
Oh, that's
is-
right.
Yeah.
Okay. John, what other hotel, are there any other options?
They have other options listed on the thing.
But I don't. Does it say if
Not
there's
as
a conference
negotiated. Can you
spaces?
forward me the bid on that?
No.
Gotcha.
There's a Courtyard by Marriott, Holiday Inn Express, Best Western.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that those were full
Yeah.
conference spaces. So.
Probably not.
Okay, I'm forwarding John the bid since he taught there year before last. And he can probably help answer some of these questions. I have no problem trying to renegotiate the bid. However, I'm wondering what arrangements we have with, is Mike around? I've never been, when I was president, we didn't have someone looking for rooms for us and helping to negotiate contracts. And I wonder if we still have that person and if we have any obligation to go through that service.
You mean like CEDA hires out a consultant or something?
It wasn't hired, so
Oh.
there's no money involved in this. So that's why I never got involved, but there was someone who was helping us locate hotels and things. I don't think we have any obligation, but I don't think it hurts to check.
Okay.
On
We should
that.
check with Mike on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that still exists. You can check, I would check with him for sure, but I
Yeah.
don't think it does.
Okay, well, does anyone seem to think that,
What email just sent it to?
does anyone have any other concerns or thoughts, or does anyone think that any of this is prohibitive against, kind of just, this is our host, this is our 2018 host?
Are the dates before or after the NDT?
They're
The weekend before.
I got it.
Got it.
MET is the following weekend.
It scares me. I mean, I think that we always have smaller turnout when we're before the NDT. We're on a trajectory where we've been getting smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are going to see Northwest and think cost prohibitive and not, I think some schools won't even explore that option. So it does scare me just in terms of having enough to,
One of the things that we might do if we're talking about sending out a survey that asks why like programs quit their programs, we could also think about having one that goes to the people who used to come to CEDA and says, like, tries to get some reasons why. Because I've actually talked to a bunch of people about this in the last year, and their reasons are actually relatively easily fixable, right? They were like, you have like more people who are judging who are not like first year outs or second year outs, right? They're like, well, more people who have to attend university meetings who are adults in the back of the room so that we feel like we're, you know.
Well, then they should bring more people.
That was what I said. But I think, but those are things we can sort of, like, we might, what I'm saying is there might be a set of things that people want. Like, there's some things people want that are nonsense, right? They're not things that you can fix, right? Like content of debate grounds or something like that. But there are things you can do, like, we could have a system that said, you know, like, these kinds of judges, right, put a premium on, like, not being the people who show up and do one debate, right? For example, we probably don't need all 20 of us sitting in the tavern because we're all a bunch of adults who could be judging some of those debates. Does that make sense? So, like, we could do some of those things to fix some of that and make those public, right? Like, here are some solutions we're integrating into the CEDA. We'd really like it if you all had to show of force and come back out, right? But if people have said this is what they want, then you can sort of hold their feet to the flame and they say, oh, I don't know if we can go. But like, really, because we just did all these things because it's what you asked for, and you know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some. But you have to get multiple people to come back at once, right? Like, programs are not going to come back if they think that if they feel like if you want traditional sort of like dis-ed and counterplan schools to come back in force, you need like several of them are going to have to come back at once, right? We're not going to.
Yeah, I think that we should say, we should have a big push for, this is a tournament worth supporting. If it is what you make it. If you want it to look different, then show the fuck up. And the Pacific Northwest is an entire region that makes debate. Look, if debate collapses, it collapses for everybody. And you need to show up to this tournament, particularly given that there are important ethical considerations as to why this tournament is what it is. And these people have put a lot of work into making this possibility happen. And I'm really not above shaming people because to me that's absolutely ridiculous.
So we only bid.
It's
These
right.
other bids.
Right. ASU would have been after the NDT, which I agree would have been wonderful, but we might have to look to next year.
I want to go. I've never been to UPS. I hear it's wonderful. I want to go. I'm just saying that, and I don't think we have, and we don't have another option. But I'm saying the reality of it is we may have to do some extra things to make sure we turn the tide that we're currently floating on.
In terms of cost for schools, things like looking at
I'm looking up airfare.
the
right now.
the airfare looked good to me. It's
We
like,
put it in the bid too.
right. It doesn't seem very cost prohibitive to attend the tournament.
It's also one of the things that Jonah did, for example, for Cal, and this might be something we can ask, like, you know, when you do the NDT, if your district is hosting it, people pay, like, every school chips in some money if they can, right? So one of the things you might be able to do is say, can we, and we shouldn't put that all in the Pacific Northwest in this case probably because they just don't have any programs right now, but we could say, programs that can chip in some money and then maybe we can give, remember, like, entry fee breaks the teams that are flying that can show that they had cost prohibitive flights, right? Like you had to pay $600 for a ticket, you know, send us those receipts and we'll give you a discount on registration or something.
That seems like that's gonna get into a weird funding scheme though, because I think already it's hard for us to break even,
Yeah.
basically.
Well,
And airfare is not gonna be cheap.
How much are you seeing?
Well, I mean, it depends, the trouble is you can't look at prices that
Right.
far in advance for that, for March, so I don't know what's comparable. I mean, there are tickets for, you can get in for under 400 for three.
What's that? You fly into Seattle, Tacoma.
You fly into Seattle, Tacoma.
and
Like
how-
here, just picking a
how far
random
from
Wednesday to
airport?
Sunday in November,
Well, if you,
the cheapest one's going out, there's some 172 one way on Southwest,
Okay.
but nothing under 320.
If you get into during rush hour, that could be a 2 hour
That
ride.
was on Sunday, if you fly out on Monday.
If you get in when traffic's moving, it's like 30 minutes.
Then you can get some 172, so you can go for 350, that's not bad.
Okay,
Like,
Atlanta to Seattle's 3:30 round trip.
that's great,
the only thing I would note about Seattle is that you have to book
Pretty
early.
bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a last minute, it's not a place you can book a ticket last minute and expect to get a deal.
And those are the kinds of things that if we tell people in advance, like if I had known that at UCF about something, then I would have, you know, pretended to try and then still failed on it and messed up later. But most people will actually ask.
That would be helpful if they allowed us to buy like athletic
Yeah.
departments do, where they can buy without names. The trouble is I won't know which debaters are gonna agree to go to that tournament until.
so for
2 weeks
example,
out,
I just did a
so
quick
buying
search for
tickets
March
is-
15th to 20th, 2018 from Atlanta to Seattle. On Delta, it's $459.
Yeah, if you go to flights.google.com and it gives you the window, all the Seattle flights, if you go out 9 weeks, drop to 328, and then 12 weeks out, they go really high. They want to sell the most expensive tickets to people who are buying tickets a year in advance, because those are your
Those people.
those are your grandparents who are like, I gotta book a ticket, you know. So they charge them that. It's like you want 6 weeks, and then each airport is different. It's like Atlanta to Detroit, you can probably get it for $70 if you want to fly tomorrow. Atlanta to New York City is like $500 tomorrow, $89 for a month from now.
Shockingly, that is correct, because I did buy
Hmm.
my tickets for
I
BF
really just
a
need.
week before.
Well-
New York City.
Well, I think we ought to, I think it might be helpful if we brainstorm and come up with a list of of
20 minutes.
proactive things we can do to make this tournament as big as possible.
Agreed.
You gotta rent a car. Do you have to rent a car? There's a lot of shuttle services down in Tacoma, so there's one, I forget what it's called, I could look it up, but it was like $16 a ticket to go from the airport to Puget, it drops you off at Puget Sound's campus, actually.
And then how far is the hotel from there? You know,
Looks like the hotels are all around the Tacoma Dome, so probably about 5-10 minutes depending on traffic.
The other thing you might think about is since
I'm
they have
just
such a
saying that
small
might
squad,
save some
we
money.
might try to deputize minions from somewhere that's like nearby that has more people, or even like try to get people out there so that they can do something like if you need shuttles, for example. So if you want to keep people from having to rent cars, which cuts down on a ton of cost, you could then have what they did like Indiana and a couple of other places, which is just have someone in a 12-passenger functionally run people from the hotel to the other place. In fact, for the extra 1,200 people that are in the tavern all the time, that'd be a great job for them. Run van.
The drive from the airport to campus is not bad as long as it's not rush hour. That 30-minute drive can become a couple hours during rush hour.
Just tell them if they want to fly in, they can't fly in during rush hour. We won't give them that. You get no right if you come in during rush hour. Although in Seattle, isn't that basically like 3 p.m. to 9 p.m.?
I'd say you probably want to avoid I-5 from 4 to 6 at least.
Noted. We'll put that in the thing. Yeah, I totally feel you on being proactive. Super open to thoughts about how to do that, but I think that's also in part a task for, well, of the exec committee, but all, you know, specifically regional reps, encouraging people to come to CEDA. And it's not a bad idea to kind of build some, what are your concerns about coming to CEDA? It's a good idea. Yeah.
I mean, you might get a boost of teams from the West that are coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're
I mean, you
more
might get
than
a
likely
host
to
of
get less.
teams who aren't going to NDT coming, but
Mhm.
given this year where there was such, I mean, with them in the same city, there was such divergent attendance between CEDA and NDT and the number of teams that were going to NDT that did not show up for the tournament. Putting it in Washington, I mean, we know a large percentage of those teams that are gonna be debating in NDT a week later are not gonna make that trip. And we just have to know that going in.
You think
We
whole,
can
you're saying
leverage,
whole
we can-
schools, not teams, whole schools.
I mean, it's different for me, cause I've got, you know, I'll have 10 other teams who aren't gonna go into the NDT, but, I mean, last year in the same city, none of my 3 teams that qualified for NDT would debate at CEDA.
Mhm.
I mean, and most of that was academic and other kinds of reasons, it wasn't ideological objections to the tournament, because wouldn't debate. But a lot of these schools, I mean, a lot of schools don't have a bunch of extra teams
And coaching.
that are looking and coaching.
To
that
allow
are-
that.
But that's
yeah,
a place to
that's
start
something
too,
we
is
have to-
bigger teams that can split their squads that aren't right now,
Like
right?
we'll have 2 or 3 teams next year. We can't go to CEDA because it's on our finals. It's on second quarterfinals.
Do you,
It
is that
happened this
like,
year
that
too.
happened last year too, didn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, I recall you saying that,
Yeah, I think Dartmouth's had that problem before too.
yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends for us, if that's, I mean, what happened this year is CETA was the week before our spring break when everybody's got tests, and
Oh yeah,
so
CEDA
that
has never
impacts
lined up
them.
with ours.
Mhm.
East Coast spring
Well,
breaks are separate.
It's like some of these are just like the broader problem of like membership, you know, so.
But I think
Yeah.
big schools who can split their squads, a lot more
Like
than
you
used
said,
to.
when they were in the same place.
Yeah, putting in the same
It's
place
the
didn't
most
solve the
ideal
attendance problem,
location,
so
right, so
maybe
I'm
being on
like,
the other side will help, I don't
You
know.
know, exactly.
They get
That
rid of
didn't-
home.
Putting it in the most ideal location for everybody
Yeah, maybe I'll have
didn't
more
solve
students
the
who want
problem,
to travel
you
there. I
know,
mean, maybe it was just
so-
Kansas City wasn't an exciting place to go, maybe Wichita's not very exciting.
Maybe
People
it's the
wanna-
Kansas City, Kansas part of that.
Cause Missouri is so much more exciting.
I mean,
Good,
you
so
ain't
someone-
never lied.
that one I'll defend.
Cool, well, I think, do we wanna call this for a vote? It's the option that we have.
It's the only option we have, so.
I don't know how to do this, call for a vote. Okay, let me get into all my proxies.
Might get those things. I'm not really sure if they know where we're at, so.
What do we need? Do we just require a simple majority of everyone that's voting?
To vote to officially host CEDA Nats at Puget Sound, is that correct?
The majority of the
Versus,
East.
apparently this isn't
Versus-
actually required versus me just unilaterally saying this
Versus
is
no
what it
alternative?
is.
I don't know.
We'll let you in on a secret, the results are the same either way.
The hotels all seem to be generally around
Just
the
go
same
around and we will
distance.
each give a speech about
So
how
you can
honored
get a better
we are to
deal
serve with
somewhere
you
else.
and to
You
pursue.
can find a Marriott by Marriott, cause it's on the
That would be
water,
hilarious.
but it's probably also might be more expensive unless you can.
Yeah, but Marriott has corporate people that we deal with all the time.
Yes. Yeah, I've got a corporate contact at Marriott.
The courtyard by Marriott's downtown on the water.
Courtyards don't always have.
I'm wondering why he only had information for La Quinta.
Cause it was way cheaper.
Well, one of
No,
the
it
things.
had other information for other hotels.
No, in terms of the, conference space.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind is when CEDA does that contract with La Quinta, there are a large number of coaches who are likely to try to get their Marriott reward points at the Marriott and not stay at the
That's an excellent
conference
point.
Yep.
hotel, which is something to monitor.
Mm-hmm.
We can ask more about,
I noticed when you left 3 hotel options here, one of which was closer to campus and more convenient, still most people are at the Marriott for a reason.
Oh yeah, I meant to send that out. The reason that the Decatur Marriott was so expensive is there's a beach party in downtown Decatur with like live music and free.
I was gonna say, that price
We
is.
finish and people wanna go check that out.
We typically have a topic committee dinner and everybody goes.
No, it wasn't the
Is
conference.
there a place
do you have,
You see the
my
numbers
bill?
of 3 different
As a
hotel
group.
options
They're
that
both, yes.
I put out and said
Sure.
one was
And maybe get
closer and then
reservations.
easier access.
Okay,
That
do
you
we,
can
okay,
suggest.
for those who can vote, the executive committee, raise your hand if you vote for Puget Sound as the host. You vote for Puget Sound as the host?
Yeah.
Do I have a vote?
No.
I'm Elijah's proxy. I'll text him real quick.
Okay.
Does he get a vote?
Yeah, I think it's easy.
I'm gonna text him.
I was actually their rep for a year over here, TV Center. They keep a levy, which we're over it.
No, we do not
So
have.
doing different-
We either have 7 of 8, or depending on Elijah, 8 of 9 that say yes, so.
We need 9.
I thought you said we just need a simple majority.
Majority of the EC.
Oh, we need a majority of the EC?
Yeah.
Who's the EC?
Hey, Gabe.
Oh, we've got Ben, okay, we've got it. Then that makes it 8 of 9.
Yay.
Yay! Our 2018 host. Okay.
We need to find 19 hosts.
Or
Is
the-
that-
Hey, Dinger, do you know how to turn up the volume?
We do, but it would be
Yeah,
good to
they
check
said that
in
they
with
can't really
the
hear me.
schools
Two
that,
who said they might be willing to do it.
Might just need a
ASU
little bit
CEDA was
closer.
the most fun CEDA I've ever been to.
yeah,
It was spring break CEDA basically.
And it's one of the biggest we've ever had.
Their reasons for pulling out were
oh, something about the administration doing some other event at the same time or something.
We're just move
Move it over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is far from where they'll go.
Apparently.
Other topic is streamlining the Constitution.
You don't need to move that.
I don't know actually who to ask about this, but
Nick
it
Ryan's been doing most of it.
happened, I think,
Thank you.
but we don't have an updated one.
Yeah, usually what happens at this point is that 2 or 3 of them grumble for a while about what they're supposed to be streamlining and how far they've gotten in this process. A lot of it's proofreading. Oh, Nick Ryan's actually responding. Hang on, he's typing into a Google chat box. You're watching the live stream, Nick Ryan.
Mm-hmm. How are the people?
What date was that just approved for? Oh, for CEDA. What's the CEDA dates?
Oh, the 14th through the 19th, March 14th
14th
through the
through the
19th.
19th. Can I just copy off of yours?
What was Nick saying?
He was asking about the dates. I thought he might say something about the Constitution. They usually have, they were trying to go through it to fix a bunch of things. They're not changing a bunch of substance from what I understand. They're mostly just doing like friendly amendment, cleaning things up, making sure that it like says the things it's supposed to say or what it's meant to.
That it takes into account the existence of the internet.
Yeah, I'm not even sure they got that far yet. I think they might just be like literally taking out commas and like fixing the words that don't make sense.
Okay. Who was doing this?
It's usually some combination of Nick, Patrice, Catherine, and whoever else they can talk into it that's sitting around at the time who doesn't annoy them too much. I would, if you want to know about progress on it, my guess is that I would ask Nick Ryan, and I'm saying that knowing that he's at least vaguely listening.
Okay, cool, Nick. I'm gonna ask you about that.
He's also just generally a hard worker, so.
We also have, so correct me if I'm wrong, we have these amendments, shouldn't they now go into the new constitution as well? the changing in the voting procedure, et cetera, you said this wasn't the updated constitution on the website.
But it looks like he has it in there. He just has it labeled as 2016 when it really should be 2017.
Oh, so it is actually correct.
So what we need to do is verify that the Constitution on the webpage is the current with all amendments that have been passed. And if it is, great. If it isn't, then Jeff or Scott need to get that up.
Yeah, though I think the one I pulled up did not include the most recent changes,
Okay,
but I might be incorrect.
cool, good to know.
So Scott Herndon's the one who will have to correct that, so there you go.
Yep.
Okay,
Scott.
I'm keeping a list of the names for him.
Yes, that's a great idea.
All right, that's my business. First VP.
Well, the things that we will need to start working on are host for 2019, host for the topic committee meetings. My initial thoughts had been I would volunteer to do that in Lawrence, and then realized we can't hold things in the state of Kansas, so I can't be a host for the topic meetings. So we will need to seek volunteers, so we will begin the process of doing that.
Yeah. I hadn't considered that. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, for the students, it's not about the students.
I
but
had
it
that
does
all
actually
planned out. I
prohibit
picked the hotel. It was like, you can do
anyone
this in the
else going.
union.
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
feed
that's right.
everybody. It would be perfect. And then I went, oh crap.
Because anyone on the
I would
topic
do
committee
something.
would still be reimbursed.
Yeah.
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 No, can't do it.
But, yeah, that's a shame.
So I will begin the process of seeking
Okay.
hosts for each of those.
Yeah, well, pretty much everyone you've ever coached now coaches in a different program. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you can just start pestering them.
Yep.
Alright. Second VP?
It's going well.
I think it's going well. The live stream is working.
Yes, we finally got it to work.
I believe that the second, is it the second VP that's, or you do awards, but, or maybe
No, I think
you do
I will
awards.
do awards.
Who's
Because you did them
supposed
this year.
to, is it regional reps that solicit nominations?
I think the
I
second
don't know
VP is
why
just in
I
charge
thought-
of the research committee that
research.
doesn't do anything.
Okay, alright.
But now that we want to write the surveys for outreach, that would be a good thing to solicit people to do.
Okay.
Like, we have a bunch of people who have
We're
social
registered for
science
outreach.
PhDs, right?
I'll have to get a committee.
Cool. Treasurer?
Yes. Give me 1 second here. And I need some information first. So our recording secretary is not going to be here. Who is our recording secretary?
Herndon, isn't it? Or no?
Last year it was Louis Pettit.
Oh.
Oh,
I didn't know that was a separate thing.
what is the recording secretary?
The person who does the minutes.
Oh, so they're not here, but Lindsay is taking the minutes.
Who is, Malcolm Gordon is our third year at large topic committee person.
Harris is sitting in for him this year.
Oh, that's what I'm doing, yeah.
Okay.
As he left, he took a high school job and said he was giving up his spot when he appointed Harris appointed himself, I think.
I'm just gonna go down my list here. Amber is first VP. Scott is second. Amber is president.
Scott's first,
Scott is first.
and Patrick.
Is third. Executive secretary is going to be absent from this meeting.
But that would be
Treasurer,
Scott.
recording secretary is,
Louis Pettit, you said.
and he's gonna be absent. Third at large would be Malcolm, but that's going to be Harris. Second at large is Lindsay.
Or do I get three?
No.
Three?
I've got you as second as large
No,
this
blue
year.
should be a little light. This is
And the first at large is
Herndon.
her. I put Scott. James.
James,
James.
no relation.
Who's our graduate student rep?
Struth?
Yep.
Matt?
And our student rep.
Jasmine Stidham, S-T-I-D-H-A-M.
ST.
S-T-I-D-H-A-M.
Okay.
First name is Jasmine.
Okay. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I'm trying to do the reimbursements. And do we have everyone here? Amber, Scott, Patrick, Lindsay, James. When do Struth, Matt, and Jasmine get here? This afternoon? Do we know
Probably, I assume
anything?
today,
Yeah, sometime today.
yeah.
Okay. Alright. Once they get here, before we start, I'd like to talk about how to get everybody reimbursed. And it looks like we're gonna be missing some people. Our number's gonna be smaller for what we're paying for, so we should come in under budget for this.
That's awesome.
We typically have a dinner where everybody goes, CEDA pays for the topic committee meeting one night because our per diem is so small. My preference would be to do that tonight rather than tomorrow night for a couple of reasons. Tomorrow night's gonna be more hectic with work, and tonight, all being together, we can extend the conversation about the topic.
Okay,
Assuming you still want to do that,
yeah.
if,
Is anyone opposed
James
to
can
free
get
food?
us,
Well,
Yeah.
would that mean it would happen after the meeting tonight, so
Like a
we're taking a 9 o'clock late night dinner, or
Do we just
because
need
we have
to-
a break between this and that.
Yeah, we have a 2-hour.
Do we just need to figure out when Struth and Jasmine are
Yeah,
gonna be here? Is
that's
that what
really
the
it.
question is?
Yeah, it does, it kinda depends
I was
on
gonna
when
say,
they come in.
the topic
Yeah.
meeting part wasn't supposed to start till
Yeah.
7. People
Yeah.
need to be here.
Because they,
Can
Sorry.
someone
Yeah.
message them and find out?
park on campus after. It says campus after 7.
Just.
I
Are
think
you
that parking
messaging?
garage is free
Lindsay,
after
are you
7
messaging?
tonight.
I know Struth and I don't know how to get hold of Jasmine.
I was just gonna put out a little group.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Jasmine told me she'd be on campus at 5. I can ask.
Okay, we'll find out. Will you be here longer than today?
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Leaving tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it's not also helps with that. On Hester too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and all.
He must be, Hester must be the NDT rep or something.
He is.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Does that mean he is or isn't included?
He can be included in the dinner, we always pay for it, but, NDT reimburses his expenses. That's why he wasn't on my list. And who's the ADA? Alright, so you're included in the dinner too, but I don't reimburse your
I got
expenses.
Patrick for that.
Yeah.
So is it true that PDA Nationals is in Dallas next year?
Mhm.
Would you know the date for that one?
The week before CEDA,
Message Hester.
the 10th to 12th, Saturday, Sunday.
Not officially, I can't remember, by the way.
maintain the same budget that we had for last year with no increases or additions. And we came really close to breaking even last year, and we're sitting on 30,000 in reserve. That budget will need to be approved by the EC, so what I'll do, Amber, is email it to you, let you look over it, and then you forward it to the EC listserv, and as soon as we get a majority approving that, we can move on it.
Okay, sounds good.
That's me.
Secretary's not here. Scott says he doesn't have any business. Some votes came out, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Esther says he'll be in this area 5:45-ish.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Or we could convene at 7 and go have our meeting over dinner and eat at that point while we talk, or is that too chaotic?
Right now, I'm struggling to find a place for 15 at 7 o'clock
Yeah, that,
on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And,
McDonald's ripped that house one.
CEDA breakfast instead? Is that like a, we can do CEDA breakfast in the morning?
We can also order food and eat here to facilitate
That's true.
the work.
I feel pretty comfortable out getting a reservation, a pretty good place at 9 o'clock.
Why don't, would 9 be alright?
People could grab us. I
Whatever.
know that's late, but you know.
Adrian's like,
It's
no.
like my
That's okay, you're on late time.
It's only 8 o'clock central, so we're good.
The problem is a lot of places don't open until 4 that are the restaurants, so.
What about options to eat here? What do you think about that? I mean,
There's
the
plenty-
decor is lacking, but.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of places to eat. Are you talking about getting it delivered, or there's like
Yeah.
The advantage of that is it's a flexible schedule and it gives us more work time.
Yeah.
The
I'm down with
disad
that.
is
Is anyone
it's
not down with that?
nice and we don't get to leave the room. So whatever y'all want.
I'm only here for 3 days, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
I do so much room.
Are we streaming the food discussion?
We're really streaming the food discussion. Is anyone really hardcore against this notion? Alright, cool.
Adrian suggested a taco place, tacos are
Right.
delicious.
Adrian knows a great taco place. Alright.
So the goal is to
Taco Bell, I think.
It's the one that the neighbors always.
Taco Bell, yeah.
Taco Bell delivered during the taco committee meeting.
Right.
The place I'm thinking of is the one that used to be a gas station or
It's
something.
Taqueria del Sol, I know.
Yeah,
I
that
know
one.
people-
But I
It's
also
good, it'll be
think
great
that
for
the-
everyone who doesn't live in Texas, but,
they don't-
Wait, I'm from Texas, so this is gonna be
and
terrible.
you're gonna eat and you'll be like, yeah,
I was gonna say, wait, that's my problem too, is that I have Oklahoma.
this is what people think is a good taco.
Right, okay.
Do they have sour cream and a bunch of other stuff on them?
No.
Sweet tacos.
Okay, other business. Nominations for next year positions. I don't have a list in front of me, but there's a bunch of them.
You should check and see if Louis is still gonna be recording secretary, since Gabe didn't think he was a member because it seems like UAT may not be a CEDA member anymore. That doesn't mean he can't be a recording secretary, but that makes it like he's coming to these. I guess, so you might need to do a special election for that, or something, or appoint someone.
Well, I mean, if you're not a member, you can't be executive council member, can you? Like if your school's not an
No,
actual
that's not,
member.
well, no, that's not necessarily
Well,
true.
Gabe can be on the executive council,
Yeah.
but he can't vote in any member.
No, I'm saying Louis,
Oh.
because he's like an actual board member. He's like a past president. There's a difference between
Right.
the two.
Fair point. Fair point.
We don't have individual memberships, do we? It's only institutional memberships.
We actually do have that option for $40. And there's been one person from LSU who's done it a couple of times.
Oh.
Why?
Who knows? Okay. But really, this is just to say that it's primarily the task of the regional reps, but all of us to solicit people to take on new positions.
I mean, basically,
we have
Mike
to
Davis
have
seems to
nominations
think
in
it's
by NCO. What?
basically Mike Davis seems to think it's like he's the one man recruiting office. That's, I think, how you two got to be president.
That's exactly what
It was
happened.
usually a beer and him being like, come on, it's not that hard, I'll be right there.
I was lied to.
Yep. That's why he doesn't
Where are you, Mike?
You might want to ask why I don't get to come to those NCA meetings, and that's why I'm I'm usually standing behind him going,
Trying to protect.
Well, what do you led to?
Um,
Have them talking to running for an AFA position, and
Oh,
they
yeah,
tell you
that
it's a
was
6-year commitment.
this is a 6-year commitment. This is a 5-year commitment. This is,
5, sort of.
it's
I'll make sure
been
it's not
3 years
down.
deep and I'm feeling all
Second vice president.
Feel ready to be out.
Okay.
So the debates in the building you were in charge of when you were second VP?
So yeah, basically reminder to people, that we need, nominees, by our NCA meeting.
Those are nominees for what, everything?
I think for the new, would be new topic rep.
One of those, right?
One
Or
of-
we
just
do
one,
one?
just
one
So
topic.
they're 3 years and someone goes
And
off,
then,
right, so now or goes away.
I don't have the list, but some of the regional reps,
Okay.
yeah.
Recording secretary probably.
And then of course, the next VP,
I kind of have a question if this is the wrong
the
time,
next
whatever.
secretary.
Is there a CEDA policy for our CEDA rep? Like
Is there a
Lindsay-
policy
Like
for what?
Lindsay and I have joked, and Elijah and I have joked, that like we just elected a D6 rep. Love him.
That's 'cause everyone.
He's gonna be living in Dallas. He's not gonna be at many of the D6 tournaments or whatever where we're doing some stuff. Is there a policy in place for
We did it in
replacing
the
him?
D7. When Allison Harper, we had elected Allison Harper, then she left.
Okay.
And we basically just, I think you can either appoint or just have another election and just replace that person.
Yeah, I mean, I got
The person
appointed.
who it is can appoint a new person, but you would typically say who would like to
Okay.
apply.
So in D1, when Andy Monty left, they just opened it up to the district,
Okay.
and they said, "Is anyone wanting to do this?" I said I was willing to, and then like they had like
You
an
can't make
impromptu
Michaela do it,
election.
she's ours now.
She's the. We need to replace her as the district secretary. So.
Let her play for us.
Treasurer.
She's been the treasurer.
Oh, no.
I feel like we talked pretty extensively about new members and outreach for more members. PR and the website. So my understanding is that this website has actually been created for 2 years now, but it lacks content, and that's why we're not using it.
Definitely was created last summer, and we saw it on a screen.
I did.
And
You did
worked
look
with
at
and
it.
worked with it.
You talking about how awesome this was
Yeah.
gonna be.
Then again, I don't remember.
We all
So,
saw it. We
I'm
played
gonna
with
get
it.
in touch with Jarman and get some access to this website.
Do we know is there the link to it?
I forget what it was.
Yeah.
That's we're gonna talk about those things in minutes.
Forget the link.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
It's not this.
It's not filled with content, and we really need to fill content. One thing that we were talking about at the last CEDA meeting was doing a kind of unpaid internship, basically for college students or even high school students who wanted to be able to say, "Hey, I worked for an organization called CEDA and did some PR work and stack that CV or stack that resume, basically." So. I don't think that's something that needs to be voted on or anything, but I'm gonna try to set up, just kind of put out a call and see if anyone is interested in it, and if any of them are, that would help us to get out press releases and develop the content for the website and basically be able to celebrate the good works of our community, so.
We've had a lot of
Anyone
success
have
with those in campus life here when the first job in person hire is to make your job look and sound as fancy as possible with the website and stuff, et cetera, like that. And so by the time they leave, if the only thing they've accomplished is making their internship sound like the coolest thing in the world,
Right,
congratulations, and then move on.
that's amazing.
So,
Okay.
like we just finished with an entire, and like if you Google it now, you're like, oh, I will apply for this woman. She took it and was like, what? So, it was just like an idea she formulated, but
Okay. Maybe you have more ideas about how to sell it.
sure, absolutely.
Do you have like a call for this position on campus?
Yeah, it's like just when Melissa retired, they took the difference between her salary and the person who replaced her and created a bunch of internships or whatever. So, I don't know how they go out or whatever.
Yeah, and I think on that note also, we need to publicize better, this is something that I'll also work on, the fact that we can write press releases for people if they give us their information and tell us who to contact. I don't think that that's a widely known possibility. So basically letting people know that, and that's
I'd
it's
be
a
able to
lot
work
to
with
write
you on helping put a
individualized.
stock letter together. I'd be able to work with you on putting a stock letter together we can both use the next 2 years and,
That would be
for
amazing. Okay.
moving forward.
Alright, cool. So we're
And
gonna work on
we'll create
something,
some system for people to, we should have, we'll just ask people for contact information somehow in this CEDA registration process or something, and we can.
Also,
President's
just
doing one
also
on
ask
CEDA,
like,
but-
who would you want information to go to?
Yeah, it seems like,
You could do that
yeah,
in
we can
Google
do that.
form.
We'll figure out a system for that. Yeah, I can just do it now that I know how to do Google Docs. Doodles and all this stuff I've learned from hosting a meeting.
Gotta get a doodle or two in there.
Alright.
I just did a doodle for t-shirt sizes for our camp staff.
Cool. So now we have 2 amendments. Oh, well, actually, before we do the amendments, I didn't add this on mine, but we should talk about NSDA stuff. So, Gabe has really been the one that's taken the lead on negotiating the contract or the deal. I'm just gonna read what Gabe has to say. Okay. Here's the update on NSDA and my plan for completing the deal after a lot of thought, working, taking the notes from our meeting, trying to craft the deal out some ideas about a better process. I think a more cooperative effort will be the most efficient way to get the NSDA and CEDA to produce a deal both organizations can agree to. I contacted the director of NSDA to go through our list of needs directly so we can assess the viability of the wish list and work together to produce a final memorandum of understanding for the NSDA board and CEDA executive council to approve. This seems like a more efficient way to go about this negotiation. The alternative would add layers of work and time for both organizations to revise and resubmit each side's proposals. Working cooperatively with NSDA on this process also creates a foundation for a long-term relationship between the 2 organizations. I think efforts to foster this relationship are advantageous to CEDA as an organization and individual CEDA programs. NSDA has a wealth of resources and contacts that can help with program development and recruitment. Cooperation is the best way to make sure organizations are working together. I've received concerns about the transparency of this process. To address this, I propose a timeline that gives CEDA members plenty of time to deliberate and discuss a final agreement. My timeline would have the final agreement being produced as soon as possible and the final vote from CEDA coming at the NCA business meeting. I think it's very important that the organization and its members feel confident about this deal. I don't want to rush this decision. I believe that reaching out to NSDA and setting up meetings about the deal can build the confidence necessary. I have already talked to the director of NSDA, and from our discussion, everyone seems to be excited about the deal. The process is a departure from the process we thought of at the CEDA meeting. I hope I explained why I think this process is supported. Thoughts?
I'm wondering what he's thinking. I understand he wants a vote at NCA. I'm wondering where on the timeline the final product gets displayed for discussion.
I think he said I think when he was reading, I heard as soon as possible.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
no,
why I'm
yep.
wondering.
So
Yep, no, that's,
so
yeah, that's.
before we get
When
much-
it's possible.
Yeah,
So
when
can I
it's-
ask a quick question? Because I haven't really been privy to all the discussions, because when I was on the board, I had to abstain from a lot of it. When's the last time Gabe talked to Scott? Scott won, the national,
He
the,
said the TOC.
Hmm?
In the email it said
The
the
TOC.
TOC.
okay.
I don't,
I
that's
get-
what the email
So
said.
do you want me to lead with a couple things? So I guess I'm here as like kind of a representative for Scott, since I'm going to the NSD after this and we had conversations about this. So Scott had said to me, there's been no official messaging of requests from any of the CEDA leadership. This is as of June 7th. So he hasn't received any official requests. More importantly, things he's heard unofficially, which I'm assuming could be this discussion that happened at the TOC, he finds a little bit problematic because he can't see a world in which the NSDA has the time or resources to accomplish the list for any amount of money, let alone $10,000. And then he says at the bottom of his email to me, if you're willing, I think the best messaging from me through you should be that I've not received any correspondence from CEDA leadership as to what the request is. And the little that I have heard is concerning to me because NSDA does not have the staffing resources ability to prioritize massive programming and tech support time for CEDA for $10,000. We were and remain willing to provide basic access to tab room and some very minor levels of support for $10,000 from CEDA, but we certainly cannot give significant resources for such a small amount. Again, I've seen nothing from CEDA leadership. And above he says, however, having said all this, a discussion does need to occur if CEDA plans to utilize any portion of tab room for any of its services next year. So that's kind of where like NSDA stands.
So did I hear correctly that it seems like there's a timeline gap there with saying a vote at NCA and no tab room services will be available to any CEDA
Well,
members for
as far as
fall.
like it's unclear what the tab room services are. And I could talk to Scott Moore at Nationals because he's doing that the whole week. The big things for him was just like there's got to be a conversation that occurs. There's been no official conversation that's occurred. There's been no offer or set of circumstances which CEDA has asked NSDA yet. So it's all been theoretical. So he's also saying these unofficial.
Dave says that he's talked to him and emailed him, but.
Okay, I mean, this is as of June 7th, so it could be these unofficial discussions that he says, but there's no official, like, this is what I think Gabe's saying, is that in November he wants to have, this is what CEDA agrees they want to go forward with. I think Scott's saying the things he's heard, possibly unofficially from Gabe, because there's no vote on it, those are the things that are problematic to him right now. And I think what he's saying is that, I mean, a lot of things that are changing with NSDA, but more importantly, I think it's just like any support come September, we need to be like, figure out what we want as far as tab room support goes. Because there's like a lot of different projects going on for NSDA, and there's only a limited amount of resources that they have.
Can I just ask a
programs.
question for my own information? Why September?
Well, that when the season starts.
So.
Because they're like, because every
am I
year.
understanding that they're saying no CEDA member can use tab?
Well, they're not saying you can't use tab.
They're
but
just
it's
not going to answer questions.
yeah, you're not going to be able to get like new programming, new point stuff, new.
Or like,
Like people were like, I know in the doc originally when they talked about it at a meeting or whatever, it was talked about like when Jarman was there, like he wanted access to all these things and they wanted different programming for the points and like you have these new CEDA sweepstakes awards for novices that you're talking about. And I just think all this stuff is additional lines of programming that have to happen that take time, much like when the bids come around for the NDT, everyone like the day before the bids votes are, immediately hit tab room with like 30 emails asking, Brushki, all these bid sheets are wrong, like that day, and it's like, I can't believe these aren't fixed, but it's like, these could have been fixed February, but they're not, so, or they could have been fixed in January when it was done, but no one does it until the day of. I think what Scott's saying is there has been official request, the stuff he's hearing unofficially, which I'm assuming are through these communications with Gabe, are things that are problematic right now because they don't believe the resources exist to do all the things that they want to do, and he's saying for this kick up of the new season, you know, there has to be something, at least a preliminary agreement put in place.
Can I ask the question, what would he consider, so there seems to me to be a question of what official means in this case, so does that mean like if this council came up with a memorandum of understanding, which it seems like is what Gabe is saying, I'm not.
What is, yeah, I think what it is that Gabe is probably saying in these conversations, these are not official because the CEDA membership is not
Right,
even.
so, no, hang on, but that's the important part, hang on, that's what I was trying to ask. Is it only official if the CEDA membership is voted? Because that can't happen, I don't think, until the NCA meeting.
Well, I'm assuming it's been brought to Scott. That's why he says unofficial in his email to me. Because I'm assuming like he has had conversations with CEDA, but they have all been. This is not the official position of CEDA because CEDA's membership is not voted on it, or the executive board is not voted.
So that's what I was gonna say. We need to figure out, I think, what he considers to be an official conversation because that seems to be his sticking point. If it's official enough that the executive committee agrees, then the executive committee can draft and vote on a memorandum of understanding, which seems to be Gabe's idea, and then have the membership vote at NCA, which is the next time membership can technically hear stuff.
In the conversations I've had with him, he says he would ideally like for something to be given to him by like the end of next week, so he has something to immediately move on to after the SDA national championship to like think about. And I think what he's trying to say is like we're moving into the summer and like plans are being made, but on the other end, like the entire NSDA membership, all their fees to participate have gone up over $100 and some a year for like tab room. So I mean, I think he's just kind of looking at it as like the freeloading of like kind of not having to pay into tab room is coming to an end. I've said this for like 3 or 4 years now, and I think he's just kind of saying like there needs to be something put in place because the on the spot things that need to get changed and us, the tab room support group, doing stuff for just kind of the sake of the community when it's asked at the last minute is not something that can be like, done in the future.
So Gabe says he has contacted Scott after June 7th and that he's waiting until after an SDA to set up the conversation.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like Scott would like to have something, I guess in an official capacity, of a list of things you would like to start that conversation. He would like that to be,
He wants a memorandum of understanding from the CEDA executive committee to have the conversation.
or something that CEDA is willing to say like, here's our official request.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it has to be a memorandum of understanding or
Right,
whatever.
I mean, the trouble is the way this is currently proceeding is that, I mean, my impression was that this is kind of like the Senate healthcare bill, that it was Gabe and Scott together putting something together that would then be brought to the rest of us. But it sounds like Scott's saying he wants something from us as a commitment prior to that.
I think it's just like the word unofficially, because he says it in quotes. I'm assuming it's been used in the conversation. I think he wants to be like, this is the official position.
I think we want to listen to officially what we
Yeah.
think we need and what we think should be included.
Because the way this is going to go is inevitably requests are made from CEDA. All tab room related requests will go to Hardy, who's the tech director. He will talk with Palmer, who's the programmer. Those are the two main programmers. All programming details will have to go through them to see if it's even manageable to do those. Beyond that, I know that there were conversations about like professional development, grant writing, etc. If all of those things are going to go, then that has to go out, and Scott has to sit down with his directors like Steve and Amy and Nicole, etc., and sit down and be like, well, what do we have available to these people in your group? So I mean, it definitely requires they have like a number of different managers and supervisors and coordinators that do these things, and he needs to sit down with each of them and say, these are what they're expecting of you. What can you give them? What's the time allotment? How much?
It seems like right now, since we're so pressed for time, we should do we should have like a bare minimum set of standards. Like this is what we need to function for a year, and we will have all these other cool ideas that we could add on, and maybe we can renegotiate those things at the end of the first year or stuff. But we should, because for his sake, right, so that he can plan, so that they can do stuff. We should be like, here's the bare minimum, so that like we can suffice and function and run tournaments and do what we've been doing and pay into the system like we need to make it work, and then say. Then set a timeline for let's negotiate about some of these other things that are going to require talking to other board people. You know what I mean? Like let's deal with the Hardy Palmer stuff, but like.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's just broken up into like how much, I don't like I said, I haven't really spoken up or talked too much about it because I'm on like both sides. I feel like I probably should have at some point, but I mean, I just think tab room access, which I've been now saying for 4 years, is not going to stay free forever. There's been like a rumor out there that people just think it will stay free. It's not. It requires a ton of money. There's 2 positions they've opened up to try to get just support, where people answer help@tabroom.com emails that are full-time positions. Like they're 40 hours a week. And it's like Tabroom is expanding like all over the globe and doing tournaments in like Canada and Germany and everywhere else. So the result of it is like there's a lot of resource strain, and I think he just wants to know like what is the minimum, what's the maximum that you want done out of tab room, and then like he can go to his programmers and say like this is doable or it's not doable. Here's what the cost is going to be. But like as of right now, all the things he heard unofficially, he does not think is like reasonable or it's going to actually have the resource capacity necessary.
I don't know if he's talking about things that you heard from Gabe or rumors about things that were said during the CEDA business meeting.
Well, I mean, it could be
Lots
a
of things
combination
were
of
said
things.
that-
Like he could have watched the video or.
Well, I think
if
they'll
Gabe
have,
has talked to him since June 7th,
yeah, I
then
think
this,
that this
this
is
email on June 7th
is
is not really
not the most
relevant.
recent thing.
No.
Yeah,
Well, it is relevant to
I
what it
do.
is. I mean,
I have a question.
our understanding of what it is that's going on.
Right, I have a question. Just so I'm understanding what this email is saying. So the September thing, are they saying September is the latest at which to know what to be programming in order for it to be ready by?
I mean, I think
2018?
Scott just wants to say you're entering a new competitive season. You intend to use tab room for a number of different things. We want to know what your needs are, and then like he'll assess a price to
My understanding
that.
though is that this deal is to basically like kind of be implemented by CEDA 2018, not at the beginning of this.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I thought the deal when it was brought up in November between Scott and Gabe would have moved faster than it's moving.
Right.
I just
So
think
okay,
this becomes a bucket of things we throw
Based on
into.
the conversations with
Well, that's
Gabe
what I was
and
saying, we should maybe
also the
pare this
email
down.
that Gabe has sent, and thus the reason for the vote at NCA rather than, for example, here, right? I think is in order for product to be by CEDA 2018, not at the start of the season.
I mean, whatever the case, but I will say this, what Lindsay's saying about, I think there should be an NSDA, if you wanna have CEDA and NSDA cooperate, I know there's like, seems to be a lot more tension in that area of like, do they have things, like when I was listening to the meeting at the CEDA National Tournament, there seemed to be more people hesitant about like, what beyond tab room does NSDA have to offer? I think what Lindsay's saying probably is more true than not, have an agreement which is like tab room, programmatic tab room stuff, totally separate from an NSDA agreement of larger scope of NSDA, and just say like, I mean, going forward, like everyone's gotta use these things. And it's just becoming like harder and harder to keep up with, you know, the college debate community is very small fish in a very large pond. So, I mean, but at the same time, like it requires a lot of resources when things happen because like everyone uses it. If it goes down for a second, everyone is like on edge, etc. So like, there's a lot of different things that go into the programming aspect of it, and it's like the resources the NSDA has right now are being overstretched to the max. So, and the NSDA membership, along with all the other groups, except for like the college debate community, use this, like do pay into it.
Can I ask a question? So this bare minimum, this is just, basically, you're suggesting we pitch, here's the bare minimum of what we're looking for.
For tab room.
And then have a conversation of, this is something that we could get out by
Yeah, because
CEDA
like,
2018.
Can I ask a clarification question? It seemed like at the CEDA meeting, that we had like a baseline that included like them running tab room,
Yeah.
them doing CEDA, and I thought grant writing was part of that, right? And then there was just a big brainstorming session where we threw out a bunch of hypotheticals that have now seemed to be interpreted as like, we're demanding these, and they're problematic, when it was more like, hey, it'd be cool if NSDA could do this for us, let's see if they could do it. So it seems like there's still a baseline we could agree
Agreed,
to.
Well, what's unclear to me is
I
the
guess that's why I'm
sequence,
kind of unclear on.
the
It seems
sequence
like,
of what and who, I mean, cause my impression from that last meeting was that NSDA had said, here's what we will do for you for $10,000, and then there was a discussion of, is that enough, or whatever that discussion was about.
Well, I think
but
that-
the process of how this gets negotiated, the timeline, who's making these decisions, has been always mysterious to me, because this just seemed like this is Gabe's project, and we're waiting on Gabe to tell us what to do, rather than,
I think things that are pretty
No,
solid
Position,
that
but-
NSDA through tab room would offer is obviously like basic programmatic support if like a tournament were to fail or you're having issues, you get those. Probably the same thing with the executive secretary getting access to all the tournaments for points. You know, holding the CEDA calendar, doing those things. Because the 20 and like Palmer doing it, like you got, if it's 10,000 out of the top, the 2,500 it brings it down to like 7,500, which is functionally like $100 per team. And then after that, it's like you can get access to the trophy store. I don't know if anyone's even looked into like going through them and talking to Chad, who runs their trophy store, to see what the difference in price is going to be, etc. Like that's usually pretty easy. Like I know someone brought it up at the March tournament. I don't know if there's ever been anyone that submitted for a review like what the cost would be. So little things like that. I think those are like, you get access to the NSDA store. You get you know the normal support for tab room. The EC treasurer or the secretary can get access to the tournaments. That kind of stuff. But like, I just know like beyond that, people had brainstormed all these other things, and I think that's kind of the.
I think that John is right. Like those, none of that was the wish list.
No, I just think that's the unofficial. Like it's growing without anyone saying like, let's start with here. Here's what guarantee we need.
I think okay.
Write it down. Vote on it.
Paul's. I think that this is. I feel what you're saying. I think that there's also, and it's a transparency question, also prescient. I think what ML is saying, there have been conversations. I don't know what those conversations are, but there have been further conversations, and it seems like you're saying we just need to kind of whittle down to what's really essential.
And say like, this is something the EC has presented to NSDA as something they want to start for a baseline conversation from and move forward from there. And Scott will say yes,
I have a
no.
proposal then. I think we should write it down. We should write down the bullet points, or I say we. I'm not the executive council, so I don't care. But write down the bullet points of the things that are minimum. Send it out an email to the EC. Let them vote on it. Give them a deadline. It has to be voted on in the next 48 hours, 5 days, whatever you want to say, so that you can have it by the end of the NDX and like that. And Gabe and whoever has that conversation can sit down and work from those points. And if they want to add on to them, they can have that conversation and we can bring it back. But that way they have it. The executive committee thinks that these 3 to 5 things are what we absolutely have to have. here's what we're willing to pay for those things.
It seemed to me from the meeting at CEDA though that we had a 3-year agreement that laid out all that. There's not even anything we have to write up.
Oh, well.
And then the second point is I thought we agreed at that meeting that it doesn't have to go out to membership. The executive council can just vote on it.
Yeah, I think that,
the Constitution
Because
does not
it's a
require
funding
it goes
issue.
out to
It's a
membership.
I think
funding
that, yeah, I think that the only thing, my sense is what you're saying insofar as I think, yeah, no vote is necessary in order to just negotiate this.
Mhm.
And then, once that conversation happens with Scott, then that's what can go to NCA, basically, and resolve the funding part of this. That's what makes sense to me. What were you gonna say? A while ago. A lot.
I think you were gonna say something about the trophy thing, but
Oh, the trophy thing, Gabe had forgotten about it. He gave me the contact, and I will do that. I think that's small potatoes in this. I think we've got to figure out, I think Gabe has baseline what we have to have for 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
What we would like added for that, and then a pie in the sky thing that can kind of trade around. And what I'm understanding from Gabe's message is that he has contacted Scott post the email, and that he and Scott are going to talk about that list, and then he'll get back to us on what they've been able to put in or take out. At that point, we haven't talked about this, how will we fund it? And there are a number of options for that. And if it is going to take place this year, we've got to decide, are we going to charge a increase in membership fee? That would be one way to do it. Are tournaments going to have to pay a $100 fee?
ML, isn't the first year free? Don't we have like a year to figure this out?
I know.
What-
It's a
This-
3-year deal where the first year is free.
But this is the whole like the unofficial conversations where people said it takes time to get into it, this and that. I just like this is like a lot of lag time. Like I'm speaking from like my perspective of like an outsider just being a CEDA membership person. Like I feel like this has got a very long time, almost to the point of 12 months before we've even sat down with an official like this is what we want with CEDA. Like there's a lot of different buckets. But
Totally
like,
feel you.
When-
It sounds like that
But we're
conversation
probably
is
here,
coming,
and we only have like 2
though.
meetings a year.
And we don't have $10,000, so it's not like
well, no, but I'm just
magically
And
write a
that's
check.
not the story that I heard from Scott when he met with me and Gabe and Mike Davis at NCA. He said, we'd spend a year talking about it, and then this year we're supposed to be putting it together, and then the third year there would be in place the agreement. And he also said that there would be flexibility in funding. He just wanted to end the freeloading. Because when he said $10,000, I said, I don't think it's possible.
Am I wrong though when Gabe described it, he said we had this first year we figured out, that's why we could vote at NCA about the funding. The second year would be $7,500 and the third year would be $10,000. Like I think there exists somewhere a baseline agreement of what we've talked about.
well, I mean, it's like we have 75 members of CEDA. If the charge went up $100 to use tab room, have everything, and just put into it, like that covers the $7,500 difference because $2,500 already comes from CEDA fees
Except for
for
some of those
tab
people
room.
don't pay fees because they're new programs.
Well, I'm just saying, like in the grand scheme of things, even if there's like last year, I think there was 6 new programs or 8 new programs. There's still 68. So I mean, that's $6,800. We're $700 short. I mean,
Yeah, but we're 5 off every year. I mean, that might last 3 years. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you
okay.
mean 5 off every year?
I mean, we're losing.
it's like $7,500 really.
Fewer
Because
paying
it's $2,500
members.
That's
already.
what I
yeah,
thought, that's what I
well,
thought you
yeah.
meant, okay,
Okay?
right.
So,
Yeah.
I can tell you.
So it's doubling CEDA fees to raise it $100. I mean, it's not like functionally it's not. What was our current membership fee?
But I mean, in reality, people pay now. I think we overpay now for some of this stuff. I mean, I'm not.
No, well, I think that's why CEDA was interested in negotiating this on behalf, so that it didn't have, each school that's hosting a tournament didn't have to pay in, or that each school didn't have a separate negotiation with tab room.
for the tap.
Yeah.
Because
No, I agree.
part of the argument was, I mean, CEDA was what can we do for the community to make this a process that can help everybody, because paying user fees to Taproom is inevitable.
Right.
And we will all do that, either as individuals or as a group.
So passing it on to individual places again is not so much of an issue.
That sounds right. Okay, cool. So, Gabe says.
So, can I ask an NSDA question then? So they just wanna get rid of freeloading, provide a bunch of services,
Well,
obviously,
yeah.
and are looking for revenue streams, and have gone to many groups, and CEDA's one of them.
Well, the thing is that all the other groups already, the only group that right now is not paying.
Okay.
So are there
is CEDA.
contracts that the other groups have signed that we could look at?
Well, I mean, NSDA has raised their fees for their whole entire NSDA membership across
Yeah,
the
just
board.
the
I
fees
also
you pay
think they
for
have
your
some stuff with like some of these international groups, but I don't know, cause it's like a lot of them are like one-off tournaments. I don't think they have, the only other group that is like a national organization that runs everything like this is CEDA. Because most of the other people, NSDA members, like 75% of the high school community, either through institutional affiliation, even if you're some college programs like pay as a sponsor or whatever, you're paying into it. It's just that we're the only ones because
What are
we will go.
NSDA membership fees?
I want to
It
say they went
says-
up from 99 to
They approached
225.
EDA also.
Well, if it's cheaper for me to join NSDA than to double my CEDA fees, why wouldn't I just join NSDA and have the same access as every NSDA member does? Why am I, what is CEDA getting different than what those other people are getting for their $99 or whatever the fee currently is?
Gabe says if NSDA's point is that we need to talk and our list has too much stuff. I agree, which is why we're setting up the meeting with Scott. So I think that we'll hear more.
I just wanted some more.
Seems like it would be good to know what the other fees are though, so.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to look up mine because I paid like previously for high school and after, but I want to feel like it went up from $99 to $225 a year.
But you pay fees per student too. Don't you?
Well, that's totally separate. The $225 is just the yearly institutional membership fees for a student are once in a lifetime for the Honor Society. So you pay $25 per student once only.
Awesome.
I get a bill once a month from NSDA for Chattahoochee fees, and I'm like, don't work there!
Yeah.
So if you can handle that, I'll get
Probably
a
because
job.
Chattahoochee, whoever's there is not paying this. They're like, we're going.
There's no chance they pay the fees. I mean, but what other groups are there? You're telling me that.
Well, I
you said all the
I
other
said I
groups
don't
are
believe
paying.
that there's another group like
What are
ours.
those groups?
I'm saying like
Nick Ryan's asking what about APDA?
Yeah.
Is that
APA
another
doesn't use it. They use a program called Tabby that they have, and they.
Yeah,
pay
he
for
just
that.
asked about just
APDA, NPDA, those kind of things, they might have like a one-off tournament that they do, but none of them use it for like what we do, which is like point collection and
Sure.
all that kind of stuff.
What did NDT and IDA decide?
I'm not on those.
What's that?
I don't. NDT, I think, was talking about their own system and whatever. I don't know what the
I
ADA
what was
thought.
your, I didn't hear what you
And
I
were.
was wondering what ADA decided.
Adrian would better,
She is the president and director of the ADA forever.
I don't know if there has been an official decision, but I think the idea is to try to lock in, like a 1-year type thing, kind of basically what Lindsay was talking about, say, here's minimally what we can do and see. But, you know, but we, you know, we're not, we don't necessarily wanna do a long-term thing. At least, you know, to kind of figure it out. I mean, right now we know we need to use tab room next year and we want to, so.
It also seems
gotta
like there are
get it
very few
done.
ADA tournaments that aren't also CEDA tournaments. Like there are a couple, but there aren't very many. Which
Well,
means
there
that-
are some ADA things that we do, like
Yeah.
there's this World Cup award that we have that they tabulate and, so, like, it's like Brian saying, there are certain points things that they do on tab room,
Yeah.
but like I said, Adrian could speak more to it. I just kind of talk about the money, I'm just a treasurer there.
It seems like a what?
Just, this doesn't affect us, but if I was in SDA, it seems like a very odd way to go about generating revenue, given that a majority of the users are schools and tournaments, where it would be very easily for them to be like, hey, you're hosting BFHS, we would like $200 to
Well-
host it there.
Well, the biggest thing is that when you're talking like we want $200, if they're gonna go to like per school to do it,
Yeah,
I can imagine like Emory, Stanford, Harvard, etc. They're coming for like $1,000 or $2,000 to host your event
yeah.
because they know people are making substantially more money. So like if you're gonna be like a high school tournament running your thing and being like we're gonna do like a one-off, they're gonna come for more because they require a lot more resources. They got to put support on their servers. They got to do a lot of different things to manage it and do background things because. But if you're a member, Emory's a member of CEDA, then it like follows back and like helps you back up to BFHS, and same thing with
Oh, yeah,
Stanford,
yeah.
Harvard, etc. Like the big high school tournaments. So there's ways to do it, but I don't think like that's definitely not the path people want to take, where it's like all of a sudden the BF and all the high school tournaments are paying for the.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Does anyone wanna say any last things on this? Maybe when Adrian comes back, she can tell us what's up, but should we move on until then?
I think both the ADA and the NDT, and this is just like, because I've sat in both of those rooms, I thought that it was just sort of like waiting to hear what CEDA has to say, because Scott wanted reached out primarily to CEDA, or maybe I got the impression in the NDT committee meeting that it was waiting to hear how CEDA resolved its thing.
Well, I mean, I brought Scott to that CEDA meeting mainly because I just heard like people talking about theoretically talking to each other, and I'm like, well, I'll just bring Scott to this meeting and see what we can get. And then from there, ML and Mike and Gabe and them all got to sit down with them after for the next day or whatever and talk through some things. But prior to that, I think Irmo was the one that was talking in between them, and it was always just like, I don't think we're really going to get charged. We can like deal with it for a little while, whatever. But that's really all I've known about the past. I mean, it seems like CEDA reaching out to the NDT and ADA and be like, what can we do is, more beneficial.
Yeah, I think that
Because like it
This
shouldn't
is
just
all-
all be on CEDA.
ultimately, I think that we need to let them have a conversation and then see
I agree.
what's what,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
I guess, what are the different ways to pay if we were to do this?
Well, I mean, there's only like 3 options.
Oh, I meant the ML,
Oh.
like, how would CEDA pay?
Well, I don't know that I've got a complete list. We could raise due on all schools.
Yeah.
We could charge a school for hosting a tournament,
Okay.
and they could build it into fees. That seems, and they all have their advantages and disadvantages. We cannot take on this without some change. We just don't have, we couldn't do it for 2 years.
Would CEDA subsidize it at all?
Would
I
CEDA
don't think
subsidize
we
it
can
at
afford
all?
to.
Like, would CEDA would say, like, we would give 2,000 and then we would raise.
Well, I mean, CEDA actually does give $2,500 because that's the old tab room fee for the tab room administrator nationals, which is included. So that would be like $2,500 getting thrown in by CEDA.
Assuming that's what they negotiate, but that was part of what they offered, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of the stuff that Scott had like kind of originally offered is off the table. It's just I think that what you need out of tab room and the programming staff is like very important to Scott at this point.
Cool, okay, let's move on to the amendments.
Okay.
Alright. Nick Ryan amendment to require CEDA membership for CEDA tournament sanctioning. Nick's not here. Which one is which? I'll just read the amendment? Proposed amendment, section, 5, tournament sanctioning, section 12. For a tournament to receive CEDA sanctioning and qualify for CEDA points, the host school must be an institutional member of CEDA. This amends the Constitution to require tournaments hosts be CEDA members. to receive CEDA sanctioning. This proposal should take effect beginning this academic season. So it's Nick Ryan's hope that this would be implemented at the start of the fall.
So schools that host, if they want to be CEDA sanctioned, need to be CEDA members, correct?
Yep.
Right.
Which tournaments currently on the calendar does that impact in particular?
Maybe that's what
Is that the only one?
I would think of.
It may not be the only one, but that is definitely one.
Yeah. Any discussion? I mean, I think that it makes sense to me.
Are we worried that people are gonna say no?
No, no.
No, I don't mean to the amendment, I meant to, we're not gonna pay, and then we have to not give points to those tournaments?
You have to be a CEDA member to vote on the topic, so.
Or, but Navy doesn't vote on the topic.
Yeah, but based off of these, my understanding is that's not because of some kind of hatred of being a CEDA member.
But I'm just saying, like,
other-
but I got you. I mean, maybe that's fair.
I don't think anyone who's currently paying CEDA dues and becoming a CEDA member and hosting a tournament would stop doing it because we passed a rule that said do the thing you're already doing. And so I can't, unless we can think of another tournament that's not Navy that would have this problem.
So we're doing this because we want Navy to pay their dues?
I think we're doing this for the other tournaments.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think this is gonna
Well,
make
actually,
Navy pay.
Liberty might
I mean, I
be.
do think this,
Constitutional amendment.
again, this logically makes sense that yes, we should.
I think part of it is
do
to
this,
I mean, if this
prevent
was a
other
rampant
tournaments from
problem.
doing that same thing. I
Right.
think they start to see the idea.
Obvious vote for this amendment. If this were a rampant problem, this is an obvious
Right.
vote for this amendment. But I'm intrigued by the motivation to write this amendment without knowing the people.
I imagine
Is
that
it
Nick
the
Ryan
like,
might be writing a response to that. No, he's
Is
not
it
yet.
like
He'll get there.
damn Naval Academy? Like, is it the damn Naval Academy amendment?
My guess is that I doubt it. But my guess is
No.
that part of it is with more teams have sort of floated from like going CEDA nationals to going to ADA nationals, and so
Okay.
an ADA sanction, and ADA is growing, right, which is not a bad thing. And so I think that maybe the idea is to prevent people from just switch, like to get dual sanctioning, right? To encourage people to not like abandon CEDA sanctioning because they like
Does it
could just do ADA stuff. I don't know that for sure. I'm literally just guessing.
abandon CEDA sanctions?
seems like it encourages.
Yeah, I was gonna say, abandoning
opposite.
CEDA sanctioning is a weird thing, because there have been plenty of tournaments that have not asked for CEDA sanctioning that get counted for points all the time anyway. So like, unless we're planning on being vigilant about how we calculate points, I'm not sure what.
He says CSUN and Southwestern were also tournaments that were not CEDA members, hosted that got CEDA sanctioned that were not CEDA members. So there are a couple more.
So a bunch
Okay,
of
that's
small
good to know.
schools pay
My-
CEDA fees.
I don't know if this is what Nick Ryan had in mind when drafting this, but I do recall a conversation at the summer meeting last year about sanctioning, and perhaps it also continued at the last meeting, I don't remember, but, it seemed like in that conversation we were saying that it's not really about, at least, I don't know about what Nick was thinking of this amendment, but basically that sanctioning and kind of lining up the sanctioning with the membership is not so much about penalizing any institution, like you said, for the, by and large, you're already doing it. But rather basically bringing the structure, right, into, I don't know, a little bit more coherence. If you're a member, that gives you sanctioning. If you're a member, just like if you're a member, that allows you to get sweepstake points. If you're a member, blah, 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 you know?
Well, yeah.
Nick's also saying, he says, it was brought up as a way to ensure that if we owe tap room dues and pass it on to tournament hosts, it seems like it's a bigger deal when we have to pay for tap room, right? So that like, and if we end up passing on to tournament hosts, then those people will inevitably get out of two sets of fees at that point. And he was like, that becomes, so probably it's not a big deal if those two schools don't pay now, right? Like, it doesn't impact our budget that much. But if we decide that one of the ways we pay for tap room is to pass it on to tournament hosts instead of to schools, like member schools proper, then then that compounds, right? Because then they're getting out more and more fees, and that's a problem.
That makes sense too.
Like, yeah, I mean, okay.
Okay.
I mean, what's the dis at?
whether I don't think that's what happened. That was just a bothering things. You should not.
But it does make sense if we decide that CEDA is going to raise dues in an effort to pay for, or even partially pay for NSDA tab room, that someone hosting a tournament ought to be paying dues because they're using tab room.
I just didn't want it to be against, like, what, this makes sense, that if there are other schools, the rationales all make sense, so, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so it seems like we're ready to vote.
Yep. Call for a vote.
Second.
This is just to put it on the ballot, right?
This is just to put it on the ballot.
No,
And,
these are actual votes.
only the EC can vote on this, and we would need 2 votes to pass it, so we would need 10. We calculate this, we need 10, right? Votes.
Yes.
Okay.
How many are on this seat?
I thought there were 16, is that not 16?
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, that
Yeah.
math seems wrong now.
Sorry.
I think we need 11.
I have Phil and Mike Davis' votes.
cause both ex-presidents are part of the EC.
Mike and Gabe.
Yes.
Oh, that's why it's a 6-year commitment.
Five.
Like a crescendo hour.
Mm-hmm.
So we are sure there's nothing in the current constitution that
Yeah.
relates to this at all?
I don't think so, but I can't really verify that. You got Phil and Mike?
Yep, they both say yes.
Okay. Alright. Vote for the amendment? That's four.
Won't be Renner or have a vote. Just 5 votes in the room, right?
I think there's 4 votes in the room.
Okay.
Alright, it got 10 votes, so it passes, it'll be on the ballot.
No, it needs
Am I supposed to
11.
record the names?
It
Or?
needs 11.
Oh, it needs 11?
It needs 11.
Okay. Maybe it doesn't get on the ballot.
You have 5 no votes.
Just not, didn't, yeah. Well, Nick Shula just came in, so now it has 11.
Okay.
Cool. Alright, Ashley Denny amendment for novice sweepstakes award. Add new section to 6 sweepstakes procedures, section 10, novice sweepstakes. CEDA will award novice sweepstakes trophies to the programs with the top 3 most points earned in the novice division. Schools will receive points for all teams entered in the novice division. Otherwise, points for novice sweepstakes will be awarded following the guidelines for general sweepstakes. In the event that the junior varsity and novice divisions are collapsed, points will be awarded to teams that debate in novice breakout elimination rounds. Rationale: the purpose of this award is to incentivize novice debate participation and recognize the work done by programs that invest in novice debate.
I'm not opposed to this. I'm wondering if if an amendment would be considered friendly. And that would be, seems to me that if a team is in the top 10 overall, and then also give them the novice, doesn't incentivize anything. So, I mean, if
We're
I
giving
love
Liberty
Liberty.
even
I
number
love
one
Liberty.
already, and they're also getting the novice award. What's the
Right.
Hey,
point?
sometimes Mason fights them for a program. It's so super interesting. No.
But if we're giving 3 of them, and we're giving,
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
So, I'm just wondering, I don't even know if I support this. I think we should discuss if it can be something that will spread the awards around more, because schools do get more recognition and support and PR and all of that when they win the awards. If it always goes to Liberty, they're it's not gonna incentivize anything.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't, this is probably not a friendly amendment to this, but something that, like, one from each region or something like that. You give to the school with the most points from each region. I mean, yeah, or Liberty or Amazing might get it from the one region,
Yeah.
but you'd still like spread it
Yeah.
around, you know, you at least
That gives-
recognize it
yeah.
from around the country, and that might still,
Those become harder to calculate.
okay.
I'm just, and I don't know that outweighs the benefit. Harder to calculate, adds,
Fair enough.
the regional awards that we've been giving, I think we already give too many regional awards that people don't even collect, they don't even use. I don't know that this would fall into that category, but I think that's a consideration if we move it to a regional. It also has less prestige if someone wants
That's
to
fair.
use that.
I think some of the awards don't get collected because they're so late in deciding what the awards are that people don't go back and pick them up after the awards ceremony. And that keeps happening to me. Can't find it anywhere.
What about their novice team has to be at CEDA?
I'm sorry?
What about the novice team has to be at CEDA?
I mean, I think it's hard to say that the novice team has to be at CEDA just because
I know,
we're.
I know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of
Yeah,
something
I
outside
know.
the because I want to support novice debate rate because
Right, I
obviously
do too.
I know we like novice debate rate, so it's not like I disagree with the spirit of this amendment.
I do
do
too.
think,
I agree with the spirit of the amendment.
you know, the people who win the sweepstakes overall,
Nick
or a
and-
lot of the teams that have novice debate already is kind of the issue.
Nick and Mike made a good point, which is that what if we just excluded people who were winning, who were like in the top 5 or top 10 of the like not the varsity, but like the overall point
That's what-
sweepstakes? If we
that's
just
what I
blocked
was
the
saying.
that's and if that's what you
Yeah.
were saying, then I think that's sorry, I was
Yeah.
just wanting to make Ryan say the same thing.
The
you were
top
saying,
3 teams not reaching the top novice points, excluding those who have the overall sweepstakes in the top 10. I don't know really how to word it, but
You,
I think we should just email
But-
Ashley then. Like if maybe you
Yeah.
could type that up, we can email Ashley and say, would you consider this friendly?
Ashley,
Denny, right? Is that right?
I don't have contact.
No,
If someone can forward that to me, I'll be happy to.
Well, because didn't Samantha send this out when she emailed? Cause she even Samantha said for her rationale, she said, I'm not sure it would change much in the sweeps race. The top 3 this year, Liberty, GMU, and Cornell would be, you know, they have strong novice teams. You know, that was just the the example from this year. So if you wanted to use the example in the email.
you still need the email?
Yes, I don't have contact information, and Patrick, I don't know what email you're talking about.
Well,
Ashley Denny is, here, I'll write it down for you.
Samantha was just basically making the same argument that that the people with novice programs were winning the overall sweepstakes, and those people this year were Liberty, George Mason, and Cornell.
I think you modified them for like regional sweepstakes, so it encourages them to stay throughout.
That's what I said, but then the argument is the regional words kind of get lost. There's already a proliferation of them.
Yeah, whatever, give them more.
That's,
We should have participation.
We can get
trophies.
deals from the trophy store.
Yeah.
well, I mean,
You should
that's
just
what
have
I-
participation trophies. You really get a
Yeah.
deal in, you rack it up.
Also, I like the extended.
I mean, I threw that out. The other counter plan was that if you're not in the top 5 or 10,
My grandpa sold used
then
ours
you
my
can get
whole
it.
life.
What do y'all
In
think,
the
top
overall
five,
series,
top 10?
Top 10? No, not, I don't think.
Well, why don't we? Who were the top 10 this year? Is that on Tabra? How do we see who the top 10 were?
I think we would have to probably
Take off that right.
ask Jarman.
I think there's a list on Tabra, right?
No cheap drinks, those are only nice.
Should be a list on our webpage.
Which of course they won't do. Cost them more to take versus if they got it. It was so embarrassing. But it was effective. These have the courses from
So help me here.
I was there for 8 hours, 28 hours. And at one point I
So
literally.
they reach a point where it just isn't worth my
So that taco
That's
place
okay.
doesn't take big orders. Can we clarify this lunch, this dinner thing?
If you think there's a place that we can go at 9,
I mean, there's a not terrible pizza place that's right next to the Math and Science Center. There's a fancy restaurant right beside it. There's a burger place that does a pretty decent veggie burger right beside it.
I'll say that you're the expert and I will default to what you think is the best idea.
I don't like that title, but.
Well, you're the expert of things that are
Food
food around
expert.
here. Food expert around Emory.
The top 10 this year were Liberty, George Mason, Cornell, Berkeley, Wake, Kansas, congrats, Binghamton, Georgia, Harvard, NYU.
None of our points came in on this.
No? I'm sure.
I don't think Georgia took a novice team this year.
No, but the overall points doesn't matter.
That was just the overall point total.
Yeah. There's not a specific novice one. I think that's what Ashley was looking for.
The only JV rounds that count for us was JV Nationals. That's a county tournament. Other than that, we didn't have a team compete in JV all year, I don't think.
I offered the kids bragging rights today because you already have points to calculate and hope to know.
The year before that was George Mason, Liberty, Berkeley, Cornell, Kansas, way to go, Michigan, Binghamton, Harvard, Oklahoma, Emory.
Anyone have a problem with just letting Herndon decide what we do for dinner? We had sort of said that we might do stuff here, but if that option is difficult or hard, then.
I have no objection to him deciding as long as he makes a good decision, and
Sure.
then I might reserve the right to
On the
retroact.
record,
You
make
always
a
reserve the
bad
right to complain about the food. I definitely remember you not
I'm
eating
gonna create a
fries
Yelp
because you thought it was
for
Korean.
Oh my god.
Or just
Did it, do you know, did Hester say he was gonna be here at 7?
He's on the road right now. He
Okay.
literally just chatted me to say that 2 minutes ago,
Okay.
but
Just takes anywhere.
that's still a while.
That's
It
what,
wouldn't-
it depends on
the dinner
Jazzy
wouldn't
and.
be so late if we did it
The problem with moving up
afterwards.
the topic meeting is you got a lot of other people coming in for it too.
Oh, that is a problem, yeah, that's my part. Well, we also don't have to do it today.
I thought we did that.
Oh, we do, that's right, Emma's leaving tomorrow.
I can leave the card with someone, you can do it tomorrow, doesn't matter.
How would I get it back to you? How would I get it back to you?
Give it to Patrick, and trust him, I'll see him at GSU.
Yes.
Wait now.
Oh, the EDA and the CEDA card.
Or someone can put it on their credit card and I can
Complete
PayPal.
domination.
Where's your teacher
Yeah.
card?
I'll control all the money.
Yeah, that would probably be
Tag
the
room, I'll be
easiest
like, what's up?
if someone could do that, and then I can PayPal
Let's go.
overnight,
Yeah.
that same day.
I mean, if people are hungry now,
As
there's
means for
food here, there's food in the village, people go grab something, and I could make an 8:45 reservation at a pretty decent place. We just agree to be done by then. I know a lot of people flew. I know that when I fly, I get hangry. I don't want to be hangry.
I'm just saying, I can't
I didn't
wait
get
to.
that
don't
far
fly
yet.
yet.
Now and then, right, yeah.
I would prefer a top
That's
committee
fine.
with happy,
I
full
sort of presumed we
people.
were just eating twice.
So I'm
Okay.
planning on meeting someone at 5 anyway. I can walk down the village, grab some food. I've got Kirk on the horn making some reservations at some places in Decatur for us. Any place that can handle a group of 15 that we can sit at.
Let's do 8:45.
Let's do that. I'll say 8:45. We can tell Hester that's the cutoff. People
Hester
can-
likes getting meetings started, that's his favorite, he's good.
Alright.
And then there's a kiba and a falafel king and a chipotle just right across the street from the Math and Science building. And if you're willing to walk the
Ashley
1/10
says
of a
she's
mile
awaiting
across
your
the street,
email.
it's an Asian
Yeah,
place. And
I'm just
I'm
trying to
Narrow.
hurry
waiting,
down.
yeah.
How far away is the Math and Science building?
this is the quad right in front of here. The administration building's there. Math and Science is across the street.
Across the quad and over?
The quad's
Oh,
Yeah, I just want. That's the hot.
I walked across grass to get
Okay.
there.
The grass you walked across.
Yeah, go back across it,
Yeah.
turn right.
It's a classroom like this, but it has windows and the parking is very close to it.
Have we used it for any of the terms before?
No.
Okay.
It's too nice. They won't give it to us for tournaments.
Well, the one building we used was pretty nice. Where districts was, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, the business school.
Okay. I didn't know which building it was, but that's why I was envisioning in my head. Don't go there, is basically what you're trying to tell me. So you're saying this is over by where that circle is? Where all the food is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The
So should I move my car?
where's your car?
I don't know, where I park it normally for the tournaments. Quasiquad. Where it says debate camp parking.
Nice. As long as the worst thing that could happen is you'd have to pay for parking from 1 until 6 or 1 until 7. It stops charging you at 7.
So I'd have to get them to But like it'd be a lot closer to move it, cause then when we're done,
To the Oxford campus building. Have you ever been to the Starbucks on this campus?
yeah,
There's a parking deck
yeah.
attached to that
Right.
Starbucks.
And then the math.
The math science building is right next
okay,
to that.
I got you.
For those who've been here for the high school tournament, Whitehall is where we have out rounds. Math and science is across the
I'm
street.
gonna try and do it like really nicely.
Whitehall's where we did district session.
Yes, that's where we did the district out rounds.
Right, and then you said to park in that, I parked in that deck, yeah, okay. So that's where I should go.
I
Alright.
actually just parked there and paid for it myself today because it's so much easier.
Yeah, I know you, I forgot which deck that was, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to the deck I know, cause I knew where this was. And I knew we had a separate live stream.
She and I were talking
It was a line. Did I? I don't think you saw this. I gotta show you this.
Amber, I'm copying you on this.
I'm so excited, she's gonna be finished with this.
Maybe I can show you this.
We really are
Like,
right now, I think.
Um,
You mean I wrote like, oh my god.
So it was
I'm also wondering if we could tweak the name of it.
What happened?
Novice Sweepstakes Awards sounds like, oh, you little beginner, you know? I'm wondering if,
Name it after a person.
name it after a person or put the term education, debate education award. I'm trying to think of something that might be,
The Donald J. Trump
Yeah.
Novice Debating Awards.
no. That might appeal to administrators. National Novice Education.
What kind of, I mean, like, I like the idea of naming after a person, naming after a thing, if that makes sense, cause giving some, like, the Front Rail Cup for ADA, right, like,
Yeah,
sort
sure.
of like has a thing to it, so,
Yeah.
I mean, the idea might be to think of what you want the quality, like, is it just points, and like, how do we calculate those points, and then we try to name it after something that, I'm sure Ashley doesn't care what we can, I think we can probably name it later,
Really
right?
promoted novice.
What we need to do is get donors to cover the cost of trophies.
Yep.
I hear they really like meeting with you, we should get up here, right now.
Hey, Pepper.
I emailed you the menu, just, make
Oh,
sure.
John?
Can I unplug?
That's my last email.
Yes.
Check that.
It'll pop up.
Did you go to Gmail or Gmail?
Vanderbilt, if you prefer Gmail.
No, no.
And they should.
So you're the
Do you know which one?
I mean, NDT has donors.
ML.santos@vanderbilt.edu.
Yep.
Why? I watch, I saved the place and I'll watch it. Super close.
Wait, you stayed, oh, cause no one has time.
Joking.
Totally funny.
Well, that's probably Jarman's fault then. That might be Jarman. And now it's turned into fun.
What is this menu?
Where are you?
Is this where we're eating?
I mean, that's the place where Kirk was like,
What's that?
yeah, the bartender told me he could for sure get you all a spot for 15 and 8:45 to 9 o'clock. I asked Kirk what's a good vegetarian place late that can service. He said, I tried it. Does that look okay?
Yeah.
What is it?
You're
Ashley
gonna
says
hate it, try
yes.
not to, it'll be fine.
Okay,
Oh,
we'll read this one.
wait, no,
There's
I
the
actually
first
thought
baby
about
artist
you
in London.
because
This one?
Atlanta Magazine, despite the fanciness
Yeah, we
of
might
this
need to
place,
tweak it. It
rated
sounds like
the-
it's
the- wait.
everyone.
the best cheeseburger in Atlanta.
No.
You said no beef?
No.
Pin her
Skill.
That's not enough.
I think that was Eric Jaffe, who I actually saw a tweet from today, who did that at the Northwestern camp, did the.
Spicy
Was doing that during a staff lecture where we were
Yeah,
making fun of that delivery.
Strauss already wrote the topic.
We've forgotten about the beef we named here in Bagram and the whole.
Strauss already wrote the topic, aren't we?
Fricker, do not forget, Fricker is on it.
No,
It's
because
already
the best part about
He's been
Strauss'
cast over
topic
these
is
five
he's
times in
like,
practice
the
speeches,
first
but
part
only gets
is,
paid.
we're still streaming too, is
Besides for
resolved.
the
You all
possibility that there
figured
should be
this
a.
out.
By the way, I think there's
Or
some both at one time, but I don't think it's
guarantee
ever and ever and
the
It does, it
ever.
does.
Oh,
From the
okay.
government.
You weren't seeing
Yeah.
ever read the line of
Yeah.
Hey, I am now.
I just think that's hilarious. I get why they did it. It kind of
Are we done? Can I stop streaming?
I don't think that.
He's like, so I can really open up about this.
I only.
Well, I'll
We
send
gotta,
this on to.
once this amendment,
I'm taking some kids to
What
school.
about the amendment?
we're
Oh,
trying to do it, we're
oh,
trying
you're
to
right, we are still
friendly,
discussing.
we're trying to
Oh, I
friendly
really like
amendment,
that.
the
That is-
amendment.
what should
Okay,
we do when he's done?
gotcha.
And then, people at home are waiting with bated breath to see.
Awards for all of you.
He's just like,
Listen,
really
I don't.
enjoyable.
The novices wanna know.
compromise. I'm all about it.
I think he identifies some big issues
You would
that
know
we
because
face.
he's such a good.
Yeah.
He's like articulate.
I just don't think he moved in the right
It's like a
direction.
word I could make whole
No,
sentences.
he's like one of the only, I've known who he was since
Mhm.
he was a scout at
just
the
a-
NDT at some point.
I've been cute with it.
I mean, that second one.
Yes.
I have
That
not
makes sense.
looked at
She doesn't.
the
Partners with.
newest thing.
His 2AC?
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I need to check that out.
Well, the bottom one is
I agree with you.
That's incredible. He's like,
Be,
That's good.
you can just tell he's at a breaking point, cause he's like,
Yeah.
this is absurd. And I'm like,
Well, in
oh,
this,
this is
in yours, it doesn't say what the name of it has to
Right.
I
be,
mean, like this,
so
right? Like
we have some
Yeah.
leeway on that.
You
I
can
think
go
that's
updating how you want, or you
perfect.
can not go out.
Okay.
The trouble is they're both seniors.
We're in it.
It's like,
Like, we don't have to do a vote for
Yeah,
the
we're-
post to name it,
Oh,
it's
so we
not
put it
already
on CEDA.
named, right?
No,
he
we'll
starts,
have
I don't
to
know if he's
something prior to, January.
I also just remember the awkwardness of how the
Okay.
art schedule
Okay.
would be the
Alright.
best.
That
So
sounds
how
good.
should the meeting start tonight? Like one talking about Kentucky getting rid of
Assuming
I
it
like
passes.
it a lot.
Strauss's proposal,
Okay, so I just sent out the friendly amendment version, which says, novice sweepstakes, CEDA will award novice sweepstake trophies to the top 3 programs earning the most points in the novice division, but not earning enough points to be included in the top 10 overall sweepstakes awards. Schools will receive points for all teams entering the novice division, otherwise points for novice sweepstakes will be awarded following guidelines for general sweepstakes. In the event that junior varsity and novice divisions are collapsed, points will be awarded to teams that debate in the novice breakout elimination rounds.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that, that's cool.
And
And I
Ashley-
think as
Ashley's
far
on
as the
board?
name goes, since we didn't name it in it, we can pick a name in it.
And Ashley's on board?
Ashley says yeah.
Just wanna make sure about that.
That's probably an important question.
I like that one.
Okay, let me just touch this new process.
Well, let's see, that's a disincentive for me to do massive novice programs now, because then
Is
we
there-
get in the top 10 and I would get the award.
Do I have Sam, you have, are you in touch with Dottie?
Yeah, I'm about to.
Do you remember when you told Megan they could have novices and then you kept having them come to the big meeting and the novices kept wondering off because what is happening to us?
Oh my god.
I kept telling them they should just do homework during that.
I'm gonna do parlay. You know, that's what
Stop.
Here's the thing, I use it in my team conversations all the time. Oh my god, I'm in the rapidly on my
I wanna go over and
But
change.
I wrote up on
how
that,
old the
The
baby is.
surface laptop.
If we could fix, this is the perfect history stakes debate if they would only have a topic for each term.
The USFG
Yeah, but why would you want to fix it so that more people
pass legislation
It's already stealing back
If that had been what was
that
available when I first got this, I
spins
probably would have done
Yeah.
that.
Well, I was just looking
Because
for.
some people do
People have no idea what
to typically,
And
that was
a
the same
friendly
thing we did.
amendment?
at least.
That's what Mike already wanted to
The
know.
only time
Actually,
we
no,
did
so.
mention this kid on the
No.
phone.
You gotta at least, they gotta have the at least in there. Gotta have a floor.
That's the perfect resolution, because it presupposes that all we care about is that. It's like, no,
should only be limited to one semester of the day.
that's not, but, to be fair, I would vote for this resolution, I would be okay.
I know you would definitely be okay with it.
I would be okay with it.
Only one semester long.
We didn't. We voted for care.
Or like any sport.
No, I mean, the only, since the healthcare got voted for, the only conversations that have happened
Well, that's
have been
been
actual
Mike
conversations.
This kind of conversation?
Not that one, but ground.
That's not.
There's apparently part about this close.
I mean, look at every time, everything that got derailed, like the hashtag, like, blame manual, it came from like, we don't have ground.
You are the worst, but that's a separate conversation.
That's because you noticed the last 3 years,
I mean, I think that the.
You go into it and this doesn't make sense.
protection topic.
I'm thinking of some of those two.
And Zeering, let's not leave Zeering out on the
I mean,
Israel
I've already
topic, he
convinced
did
them
do
to
something
dump
pretty
the
well.
British PP.
I just, Zering's just like your mate, you're like the shark and he's a little
I have a bunch
fish.
of has to be
So,
exceptions.
Most of this is.
Israel got demolished,
I have a whole
Zeering,
downfall
Color
of
State.
class if you want to see the form for it.
No, this is the worst. But it just, all they want out of the top is round.
Yes.
But I kind of like she had a student.
I mean, that's
I mean, the one thing
the
about
whole
the
thing is
good
like, we
about
wanna be able to
the
see the government
is
without
they
that.
can have someone be.
Say it, exactly, they say it now.
Speak the
And he's trying to,
was a
but
moderator.
the part that will never pass is including the like, a mutually exclusive part. So like, let's say I agree with him, that's the part that needs to be excluded if you want it to be phrased in a way that gets it passed. And if the phrase mutual exclusive isn't included, then it's the exact same thing, like, does our gov bad stuff leak? No, we got the T.
Yeah, we do that, that's one thing.
But he's frustrated because there's been some debates
I don't
where,
I'm gonna change my.
read it, there's extensive link, and then I was like,
Just kidding.
Well, that's all the names now.
yeah, but this is bad debates.
I did it, it worked
Yeah.
really late. We did like, maybe like
I don't
days
think
for
that's
the
true.
trade for the, like, that's what we talked about, yeah, we said
And this
no
isn't
brainer.
solving knowledge base, it's not
So
solving
they-
strong
they-
knowledge.
I was like,
Just
just
list
structure
off all
it,
these
but,
that
so
didn't read a plan. Almost all of them, either you could read your gov badge Strauss DA, or you couldn't.
This is just nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, here's, let's put it this way, if we only evaluate the A based on the top 16 teams, that's awesome.
Well, yeah. Yes, the novice debate
Debate is
Strauss
a-
resolution is pretty strong.
Debate is a
Alright,
fantastic state if we only evaluate the top 20 teams in the United States, that
guess what? You back
He was
the
like,
app
"Oh,
team
let me
into a
stab
corner,
him
they're
like
gonna
that."
lie.
I was like, I just stared at him. I was like,
True.
Okay.
Especially since Justice in the paper defended the healthcare topic as a uniquely beneficial thing to get novices to debate.
Oh yeah, healthcare. Oh man, vote for it because Trump's gonna mess up the other topics.
Yeah, there's these sections in here that before the House had acted. Congress will never act on any of this.
What else we talk
I mean-
about our universal code?
I mean, you're doing a camp right now. It's an education topic. Every policy app anyone's written,
Yeah.
warming advantage. What are we doing? It's education. It's like 10 years.
Oh,
Second,
we
Trump.
don't have warming advantage. It's true.
But everyone I looked at, wait, STEM.
Alright,
You think like funding STEM, that's gonna solve the problem. Come on. Across the country, it's devastating that it's come to education.
The core DARPA app was like devolve education.
Yeah.
No, the opposite.
Oh, no, lost a student.
Federalized.
Yeah, federalize it. That's good. And the advantage? Healthcare.
I mean, they could get, I'd rather be like federalized and like have like Davos charter schools could. Like, just say something that's like the middle of the ground, like that's the ground. If you're gonna federalize, you gotta say that.
I'm still waiting on 2 votes.
It's okay. They're getting me right in my mouth. Screen.
Second.
Oh crap.
Okay, Herndon, who else do we think is coming to the topic meeting?
I know that Will Mosley Johnson will be here. I know that Brian Klarman will be here.
can we trade Will from here?
CWMJ gonna try to get Israel into the topic?
Yes. I mean, Hayes is in that building right there. I don't know if he'll rumble over and participate or not. It's a memory debate.
Does anyone happen to have Samantha Godby's phone number or anything like that?
Just distributed it here for it once.
I hear, you want me to call her?
It's like, I got this.
Yeah, and just see what she thinks in light of the amendment.
Because
You can just call people on Facebook.
Yeah, if they have their
We
phone
should
number
have
put in there, or if
said
they have the
Joel
messenger
broke his
app.
ankle and it was determined.
I was just, we had a young
Candy
woman
made
coming
sense.
from
Me
Kansas
and Joel
City,
on the street.
and the phone just rang, it was Rubai, like, hey, can you pick her up from the airport? I was like, how did you do that? But, Amber, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you answer the Doc Brown 85 email
Never.
ever?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you've been included, oh, okay. Hester must have you in there as Doc Brown 85, that's why it's been popping up.
Oh, you mean on the
Yeah.
list of emails?
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets forwarded, so that's, yeah.
Couldn't get her. He didn't say no.
Alright, well then I say. Alright, well then let's move to a vote. You seconded it?
Yes, second, to vote.
Alright. Who votes for the to be on the ballot?
This is the amended version.
The amended version,
Okay.
the friendly amended version.
Yep.
And then,
Both say yes.
okay. We've got,
D6 says yes.
Southeast CEDA, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Southeast CEDA. Southeast and Southeast CEDA both say yes.
it does not, you said we need 11. We need 11?
Yes.
Right, so it does not pass.
Do you have 5 no votes?
I don't. I have no votes. I have 1 no vote, and the rest are.
The others are no
abstaining.
votes.
They're actually not voting.
There are no period votes.
Right.
It's like the Shanahan version.
They're not no votes.
I'm
they're
just
no
saying
votes.
that if someone who hasn't voted,
I prefer not to.
if someone who hasn't voted emails you in the next 2 hours or even tomorrow,
Mhm.
then we would have enough votes, it can still go on.
Oh, it doesn't end at like the close of this meeting?
Right, it's
Okay.
not a vote at this meeting.
Travis has emailed Diaphragm. He said he supports it.
Okay.
I
Cool.
don't know if you count.
How many?
I didn't count them yet.
How many are you
I
short?
don't know if that,
1 vote.
including Cream?
Hmm?
Including Cream?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You get a gay vote.
So I think it
Does-
just
do you have a
stays
Scolio vote?
stays as an open issue until you get 11 yeses or 5 noes.
Oh.
Do you have
Okay.
a Nick Scolio vote?
Yes.
He's a yes.
Mm-hmm.
I got some numbers, I can call people for you.
How many votes do you have?
We don't have Elisha's vote.
He's in Japan.
Herndon's just making it up.
We have 10 votes. We have 10 yeses and 1 no, as of right now.
I sent him an email that said that I was gonna vote the way that Amber voted on all issues in his name, to let me know if he disagreed with me, and he hasn't responded.
Sounds like a yes to me.
Okay, well then we'll just leave it open. We're at 10 votes right now, so maybe we'll hear from someone. Alright, cool. Does anyone have any additional business you want to discuss? Alright, voila. Bean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, President. How do I stop this? This button says.
Button stuff.